Young Ben's life had not been great up to this point. His mother and father never had much interest in being those things, and at school he was bullied for his small and frail frame. This summer, he'd been sent on a vacation with his Uncle Max and cousin Gwen. He didn't like them that much, and he didn't even know them that well. But it was a good change of pace from the horror he'd had to live with what his parents had been doing to him. However, it still wasn't great. He'd been looking forward to it, not just to get away from his parents, but also to go around the country on a road trip and see all the sights. But it seemed like they were taking all the most boring routes on purpose, not doing anything remotely exciting that Ben would have wanted to. This gave Ben a particularly grim thought. He imagined a meteor shooting down from the sky and crashing into Uncle Max's RV, killing him and taking him out of the misery, which wasn't far off from what happened next. Nearby to the camper van in the forest they were set up in, a massive explosion came down from what seemed to be a shooting star crashing into the forest. Ben went out to explore it, and he found, in a crater in the ground, a glowing rock with metal parts attached to it. However, when he got close, a mechanical sphere jumped up and implanted itself into Ben's arm, shooting green lightning all across him. Ben started to feel angry at himself for going towards this signal, but that just led to what happened next. Parts of his hair began to feel like they were burning, and Ben's nostrils were filled with a smell like burnt charcoal and wood. And he realised he was transforming. Parts of his skin were hardening into red clumps of rock, but other parts were melting away into magma-like forms. That was one of the last things Ben remembered before he reawoke in Max's RV, with Gwen and Max wanting to talk to him about the horrors of that last night. They told Ben that he had transformed into a demon-like form made of magma, fire and rock, and he started burning the forest around him. Eventually, Gwen had managed to knock him out with a fire extinguisher, but it wasn't a great revelation. With this strange mechanical device now implanted into Ben's arm, his flesh warping and stretched out around it, he began to worry, and then he began to worry more. What if this caused another transformation? Was it just rage that made him transform, or was it other emotions? Ben started to panic, but Grandpa Max tried his best to comfort him. It was early in the morning, so there wasn't much for Ben to do, and it seemed like that was the perfect opportunity. What if this device took control of him again? Ben started getting in his own mind, and it felt like multiple aliens were trying to claw at his brain, but Grandpa Max comforted him once again, and started sharing with Ben some of the things he'd learnt when he was in the war. Started teaching Ben tactics to try and get over his overthinking, but that didn't help much. A few nights later, Ben awoke in the night with a hunger, a great one at that. He realised he wasn't in his human form anymore, but at least transforming in the night meant he didn't feel the pain of his transformation like last time. He was a hound with no eyes, but he felt like he could sense everything around him, and somehow just knew what was happening. He had fled into the forest, and police had started covering up the forest fire. And as he went out and found a policeman out there in the dead of night, he did something he truly regretted. In this new form, he swung through the trees. The officer would eventually find out about him, but it would be too late. Ben, against his own control in this new mutated form, would claw and tear at the police officer's arms, not seeing what was happening, but feeling the overwhelming dread in his mind, mixed with the fact that he was animalistic, unable to control himself, which he especially hated. When he woke up the next day, Grandpa Max and Gwen told him that the police officer hadn't survived. Ben had killed someone. He started to panic. How had he done this? He couldn't take control. Why wasn't he able to take control? And then he panicked more. How far did he have to go for it to take over again? Again, they tried to comfort him, but this time it wasn't working much. And later on that day, it would become especially bad. Later that night, as I said, it wouldn't get much better for Ben. As he panicked and panicked, feeling transformations trying to take control, clawing at the inner workings of his mind, Ben simply wanted the meteor to have actually hit him this time. But it wouldn't matter. What seemed to be a massive robotic droid appeared in a camp near them where they were staying, and Ben was frozen in fear. He saw bodies being thrown about. The entire place had been massacred. Gwen and Max were soon both hit by bullets and killed. Ben was the last one around, and whatever this device was in his arm started to glow. He panicked, he cried, he screamed for anything to just kill him. But fear wasn't the only emotion he was feeling in them moments. Not only did he feel fear from this massive mechanical beast, but he also felt sadness towards Max and Ben's death. He felt rage towards this beast, but more importantly, he felt more powerful than ever. He felt so much, he felt panic. He felt the need to rescue people, and this awakened something in Ben. Not only did this device start to glow, but it didn't just transform into one of the beasts that was kept inside. He felt multiple parts of him bursting at the seams. He felt his arms tear and stretch and split in two, his fingers outstretch into claws, and the more powerful he felt goop dripping down him, and his mouth started to peel backwards. He cried at the pain, but at the same time, for the first time in his life, Ben was experiencing what felt like more than one emotion. For the first time, it wasn't just black or white. His life wasn't just horrible or good in them moments. It wasn't just bad. He had felt multiple emotions for what felt like the first time, even if they were bad. Ben fought against the beast, using his multiple mutated parts to try beating it, flying up with his torn apart wings, and eventually he managed to kill it. And for the first time, as horrific as the last few days' events had been, for the first time in his life he felt strong. The strongest he'd ever felt. And he'd only get stronger as his terrifying, horrific, painful, but ultimately useful abilities developed.